Welcome to this edition. I think this should be the final segment. I did say the part three was the final segment, but then I found content, and I felt like the conversation needed to be had. People needed to talk about these things. I think we have a lot of pent up emotions on both sides of the aisle. And on the Village Boy podcast, my people, my traditional people, my culture people, my value added people, you know how we do. We talk about sensitive issues and we always find a way to find a headway, a solution. On this, what I hope should be the last episode of this conversation, the Black on Black crime, which I dub the African American. I will be using, and I'm trying this, a Nigerian YouTuber's video, Steve Nduku, video is a background video for the most part, just so you see the beauty, captivating the beauty of parts of Africa, that we could come together and see how we make Africa the continent that works for all of us, right? So I wanted to take the permission to be able to run Steve's video in the background as we have this show today. Thank you, Steve, for authorizing me, even though you didn't do it officially. But let's get on with the show. I have always argued, for reasons of technicality, today we are driving into that divide that's between Black Americans, or FBA's, Foundation of Black Americans. And in the last previous shows, I said in a continent that spans from North, Central, and South America, there are plenty of foundational Black Americans. But of course, we are talking, when we say foundational Black Americans, we're saying those that are the United States of America. If you go to Cuba, if you go to Haiti, if you go to Dominican Republic, if you go to Guatemala, Honduras, you would find foundational Black Americans in those countries. But if you told somebody that, oh, that's an FBA too in Haiti, that's an FBA in Cuba that's Black and looks just like you because they're descendants of slaves and they're Americans, they will argue. And that's because labeling in America is such a brand that distorts the original fabric of history, which is what the Village Boy is trying to do. For the longest time, I've always been opposed to calling Black Americans African Americans. It's not because I did not think that they had a lineage or a claim to Africa. It's because, first and foremost, they are by default Native Americans. They were born here. This is the country they know. This is all they have. If something were to happen today, this is it for them. See, the African immigrants that came here can always buy a ticket and probably go home. Granted, some have been here for 60 years, 70 years, and so on. But calling an African American who has generational roots here, whose entire fabric and fiber helped build this country, something other than American is stealing and taking away from their Americanness. That was my argument. Before long, immigrants from Africa, like myself, started coming here in the 60s. America has never prioritized a program that expressly brought Africans to America outside of slavery. America has never had no such program. America has had programs for every other part of the world except Africa because they did not want to grow the Black population. How do you grow the Black population? You take the Black Americans and you take the Black Africans, you put them together, they grow, they make babies. The 1.4 billion Africans. If you take just 1% or 2% of those people and you migrate them here and they fuse, they partner, they form a union, with the Black American local population, it would explode the Black population in America, which is something that the government has really never wanted to do. And they have always said when other countries became developed and immigration from those countries started to dwindle, reduce, they were forced to turn a little bit to Africa to be able to brain drain, bring the best of the best through programs like the Green Card, which one of the worst presidents in history is trying to stop. But also, there was already the indoctrination from both sides, how they portray Africa as this dirt poor continent, impoverished, disconnected, smelling, primitive, all kinds of derogatory, negative pictures that you can portray was shown to the Black American community. And the Black Africans were also shown the violent gang, the violent lifestyles, drug, poverty, desertation, disconnection, stuff that appeared to be no ambitions. So right there, you've already pit two people that are supposed to come together against one another. So in this critique of the ADOS boycott of African American businesses, so I decided to say Black Americans were the foundational Americans because this is home. They are native. Natives cannot label themselves something else when they're not that something else. So we're going to say Black Americans for FBAs because that's the authentic and true identity that they should have. And for the immigrants who have now naturalized, for the most part, about 4.9 million of them, because we must understand that when we say the US has a total Black population of 49 million people, that's inclusive of everybody. It's not limiting to just FBAs. It's including everybody, the descendants of slaves, the post-slavery immigration, and those that also suffered the post-slavery immigration. So Blacks from the Caribbeans, Europe, Canada, Blacks from everywhere, because the post-slavery immigration did not really take into account Africans. So you had Blacks from Haiti, Jamaica. These are people that came and lived through the Jim Crow and other segregation aspects that was in place for Black people. So they technically fall under descendants. They're not descendants of slaves, but they experience some amount of segregation and Black pain compared to the African immigrants that came in the 60s. This is post-Civil War. Yes, civil rights, sorry, the post-civil rights, correct? So we're calling those that came because the boycott is for them, the African Americans, because they're naturalized, they're from Africa, they're naturalized Americans. So it makes sense to label them African Americans. They're of Africa and they are Americans. They have a legal claim and direct claim to Africa, right? Black Americans have a historic claim to Africa, and you cannot call Black Americans either. You call everybody African Americans, which then takes away from me again from native Black Americans and waters down, because once they hear an accent in America, they're always going to say you're an African. They're never gonna associate you with American. Accents in America is the most un-American thing ever, right? Especially for minority Black people. Your Americanness is questioned, your authenticity, your acceptance and willing to be part of the fabric of this country. It's historically not accepted. So you're always going to be a foreigner if we do not start calling people African American in the right sense. I had to take some time to put this out there so that everybody is accepted as part of America. America is a mixing bowl for everybody. It's not a white people's country. It's not an owned by exclusive native populations. It's an all-inclusive people that are here that love the Constitution, love the country, and want to see the success of the country. So we had to have that little clarification. Now let's get into the conversation at hand. So the ADOS boycott of ADOS are the American descendants of slaves. They have always been boycotting, and they had a right to. I've always supported some of their rights to reparations because in previous videos I said America did not gas chamber the Israeli citizens or the Jews. America was not a signatory. America did not participate in any way, shape, or form in the torture and dehumanizing treatment that the Jews suffered in Germany. America was actually a liberator. America fought to ensure that it doesn't happen again. However, and America also ensured that a stolen piece of land was given to European Jews that they call home today, right? And America has ensured that they are funded military. They have everything they need. America sends donation, billions and billions and billions of dollars. Israel is a prosperous country. Israel has universal health care. Israel has everything that any good country has. America does not have or offer some of the things that they even fund for Israel, for something that they were not even guilty of. What they were guilty of, racism, they have not fixed or looked to fix. Those free slaves that went off to create the country of Liberia, you would think that that would have been America's priority as they did with the Jews. They would have funded Liberia. Liberia would have been a territory of America, the same way you have Guam, the same way you have the Virgin Islands, the same way you have Puerto Rico, where America is able to fund because these are descendants of slaves, freed slaves. So you freed them, you're like, oh, go about your business, but you kept them captive for so many years. And when you gave them freedom, some of them decided to stay and some decided to go. They went on to create Liberia. America has no business. The other day, the president of the United States was shocked to find out that the president of Liberia, a descendant of slaves, American slaves, those are descendants of slaves. Descendants of slaves spoke English. It's an embarrassment, but for most Americans, this is really not an embarrassment because but he was shocked that the president was eloquent. He was shocked that the president understood how to articulate himself clearly. And I talked about this. Those presidents that came to see Trump never had access to go see a Black economic forum, a Black American economic forum, to be able to partner with each other. And this is where this show is going to settle today. I'm all about solutions. I'm not about hate. I'm not about division. I'm about bringing people together so we can solve common problem. That's the village board. The village is about coming together, not dividing ourselves. If you're on this platform, you should know it's about bringing people together, not dividing or alienating and creating more smaller groups of people. There's power in numbers. So in what I call the failed boycott, once again, of the ADOS movement, it fell short. But how can we build a Black economic bloc that runs from Atlanta to Accra, from Washington, D.C. to Lagos, from Chicago to Nairobi? How can we fuse together? We're talking here about African wealth, agriculture, mining, tourism, and how it can lift all Black people, all African Americans, all Caribbean people, all people that are Black anywhere in the world. This, for me, is a win-win solution. It is a win-win solution, but it starts with learning to be better hosts to each other. grab a seat, get some popcorn, hit the like button, hit subscribe so you continue to get the conversation that the village boy, the guy from the village, is presenting to you. Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it all the way 100. There is a rift between Black Americans, right? Your ancestors came from Africa. They were forcefully brought here. It's no argument. During slavery, America, the colonial settlers couldn't go back to Europe and find Europeans out there to come do the work. They went and got African slaves, Black folks, to come do the work and never paid them for hundreds of years. Right? As an African myself, as an African American myself, right? I grew up with a tradition of hospitality. Our hospitality is different. Our hospitality works in a way so that Black Americans can understand that where the originality of the pain we can then fix. When someone comes into your home, when you welcome somebody into your home, you typically roll out the red carpet. You share your food, you break bread with them, you show them the love of the village. You are the lead and they follow your guide. It may be different in America what a host is supposed to do. But see, the people coming into your country that look like you and want to align with your politics and ideology do not know your tradition. So you are supposed to learn their tradition so you can welcome them in a way that is befitting to them. They're not going to be able to understand your mannerisms, your way of life on the fly. In the process of welcoming them, that's when you show them how it works over here. See, I feel, and I could be wrong, when the contingents of Africans came, now African Americans, they were not welcome. They were not welcomed with open hands by Black Native Americans and say, welcome, come in, let's form a partnership, let's create a fusion where we can grow together. But this is how we are going to do it. I will lead my country. You don't know much about America. You don't know much about our history. We have a peculiar history, and you have to learn that history to be able to understand where we are going together. And we need you to follow our lead. Believe the process, and we're going to lead you to a path of success. I feel that did not happen when the Africans came. When the Africans came, they were met with resentment, with insults and hatreds and labels. The African booty scratcher, the smelling others, and all of that kind of stuff. Primitivity, did you live on trees? And we've talked about this in previous episodes. There was never anyone trying to bring these two Black people together. And it must have been designed for a reason, because if they come together and form a powerful economic bloc, what would unfold? Maybe people did not want to find that. And that's the same reason why there's never been an economic plan to bring Africans specifically to America, as they have been for Europeans, for Asians, for Latin Americans, for Mexicans. Through the Basero program, they were able to bring Mexican farmers to come and work here. A lot of programs. The H-1B visa brings 70,000 Southeastern Asians to America. 70,000 for a visa that grants 75,000 visas. That's a visa specific for Southeastern Asians. For the most part, Indians and Bangladeshi and those Southeastern Asian countries benefit a lot from that visa. There's no such integration program for Africa. And so the division is palpable. It's touch. You can touch it with your hand. Black Americans carry the scar of slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, their struggle is unique, and it shapes their identity. And the brainwashing to put on TV that Africans are so poor and disconnected, and the black brain immediately says, well, this person cannot help me in my struggle, in my pain. They are not going, yes, they're black, but they're not going to understand my frustration and my pain point. Therefore, I'm not going to be able to welcome them. I'm not going to be able to partner with them. And to the African, the black American is not willing to integrate. We've given them everything and they're not willing. That is what is portrayed. They're not willing to integrate. They're not willing to take advantage of the opportunities in front of them. That is what is portrayed to the Africans. And now you have two black people that see each other as enemies. We have nothing to gain from each other. Your communities are not safe. You think I'm primitive. You think I smell. You think I'm uneducated. You think I'm beneath you. I think you're not willing to take advantage of the resources. You're not willing to do X, Y, and Z. You complain a lot. This is the historic presentation that has been put forth between both communities. And we've come to the point where we're advocating by the ADOS people, the people who I think are a pressure group. I see no difference from ADOS and the Ku Klux Klan. I see no difference except color. Same thing. They are advocating for destruction and not unity. But the Village Boy podcast, we have a history on our platform of bringing people together and finding common solution. And in our labels, when you are constantly referring to yourself as black and me as African, you are inherently telling me that I am not black. I am not accepted in America as black. You are the authentic black and I am African. And when you say African, what you mean is something beneath you. I referenced the movie Hotel Rwanda, where the colonel was evacuating a bunch of people. And Robert Sabagina came up and said, please take these people, take some of us. And he told him, he reminded them, you are not even the N-word. You're not even the N-word, right? You're an African. You are beneath the N-word. So there's the N-word and Africans are beneath that. This is something that is taught to people to see that other people that look like them are beneath them. And if somebody's beneath you, what is the essence and point to work with each other? What is the narrative to work with each other? Let's go ahead and listen to something that my good doctor, Dr. Claude Anderson, had to say. Right? Let's listen to something peculiar that he had to say.
Then because we just don't have enough time to address everything that I would like you to address, if we take a look at a few points and just summarily talk about them. For instance, what's wrong with blacks politically in America, and why haven't we made more strides?
Because for a number of reasons. First of all, because we still tend to think that partisanship is important to black folk. And but whites do not place as much importance on partisanship, political partisanship, as we do. See, when black folk did not belong to any party, and they were independent, they were enslaved. From 1618 up until 1866, blacks were slaves. They didn't belong to any party, and they got slavery out of it. From 1866 to 1936, about 96% of all the blacks in the United States belonged to the Republican Party. What they got was Jim Crowism out of it. From 1936 up to 1996, almost 97% of all the blacks in the United States belong to the Democratic Party. What they've gotten is a benign neglect. So partisanship is not the issue. The issue is that black folk have never had an effective strategy for dealing with white racism in this country. That's the issue. And we have never sat down and say, how do we go about dealing with structural racism? If we are the only planned minority in the country, as I just indicated to you a few minutes ago that we were planned into it by a public policy, which says that the quote on black folk is zero. You're not going to have anybody going abroad, bringing black folk through refugee programs into the United States from Somalia or Ethiopia or from Haiti.
So did you catch that? The quota is zero. So the goal is not to grow the black population, it's to hold them at a certain percentage. And since the founding of America, black population has historically been between 11 and 15%. Now Hispanics are the second minority because there's really no quotas on Hispanic growth. And Hispanics, again, people are mistaken to think that Hispanics only say Mexicans. No, the entire North, Central, and South Americans, and maybe even Spain, are considered Hispanics. And that number is ballooning. Why? While they keep the black numbers restrictive. And now within the black population themselves, instead of saying, okay, we've had our differences, we've had problems, we've had identity problems that were caused by none of us. How do we come together to build a stronger union? Is what Dr. Claude is getting at.
They're not going to do it because they're fearful of blacks. There's a quote on blacks in this country. So we have never sat down and said, how do we win as a minority? You can win as a minority population if you learn and find out how it's been done in the past. Jews are a minority religious group, but they do win. The National Rifle Association is a minority social civic group, but they do win. The wealthy elite in this country is a minority group, but they do win. When will we sit down and strategize? How do we win as a minority?
And I guess perhaps the more operative.
And that's the question. There are examples of groups that already win as minorities. Now let's go ahead and listen to another brother that I've always said, I listen to him, but I just found out lately that he is on the ADOS chain. And for me, it's a very divisive chain. It's a path. It's a path that reduces Black Americans to a small market. Right? It's a power structure. You have to grow your numbers, not shrink your numbers. You do not shrink your numbers to be successful. You grow your numbers, or at least you play the game to win outside. You make other people work for you if you have small numbers. If you have small numbers like the billionaire class, the Jewish elites, they are small numbers, but they are some of the most powerful groups in America. So if FBAs, if ADOS, if they want to segregate themselves and cut off from other Black folks, they have to create that power structure that is strong enough to make other people work for them so that they can grow their wealth from that power structure. Let's listen to my guy here, Team Black, who is advocating for the division and separation of Black people so Black Americans stay only by themselves, buy Black American products, consume Black American products, live by Black American code and conducts, and that is their path to success. If there is any story anywhere in history where a group has secluded themselves, isolated themselves, and succeeded immensely and massively, please share it in the comment section and tell us what that group is today. Because Israel, a small, tiny country, is making America work for her. A mighty, powerful nation does the bidding and everything for Israel. Can Black Americans Foundation Americans do that? Can they have a powerful force work for them? The 1% billionaire, they pass all the laws that are in favor of them. Everything that the 1% billionaire does is in disfavor for you and a favor for them. So essentially, you are working for them. You are the modern slaves for the 1% billionaires of America. Right? So you cannot just say, let's buy for ourselves, consume our own products, eat our own, live within ourselves. At some point, you will start reproducing between yourselves and you will have inherent generative problems that will wipe you out. You have to be able to go out and fuse and connect with other black people. How has your population been historically 12% on average? Let's listen to my main man, Tim Black, talk on the successes of the Black boycott. He thinks it's a success. I think it's complete failure, and I think we should be ashamed that we are actually thinking the separated we are going to stand. There's an old adage that says, "United you stand, divided you fall." There's a saying in Africa that if you want to go fast, walk alone. If you want to go far, go as a group. Right? There are other ones that a single hand cannot tie a pile of firewood. If you have a single arm, you cannot tie a bundle or a pile or a lot of firewood. But you need both hands to be able to do it. So Tim Black is thinking naively at that alienating, using culture as a weapon to alienate themselves, seclude themselves, isolate themselves, is going to create some economic reform, some boom economically. Show me anywhere in history that this logic has worked, Tim Black, and the people that support this narrative.
Group, and we need to start doing that today. And if people can't understand that, I question if they're really seriously considering where we are. So maybe today we can educate people about where Black America is, because if you judge us based on how much money Shaq got, how well Oprah doing, maybe you'll have a different opinion. But that's not the average everyday Black American.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, like you said, brother, this conversation is long overdue. And if we're going to get into it, we got to go back to the beginnings of it. As you said, Black Americans, not because of their free will, we were brought over here. We were forced to be chattel slaves. We built everything in this country, whether it was our physical labor, whether it was our intellectual labor, which doesn't get enough credit. Right. And a lot of the inventions that were created in this country to either further agriculture or the further industry were usually created by the people who actually had their backs on the ground, literally doing that stuff. If you're picking cotton and you want to try to figure out how to do this without the labor being less backbreaking, you start figuring out ways to make that. And somebody like Eli Whitney can make a cotton gin, but he doesn't make that without watching the way black slaves were able to manufacture things and do that. If you're trying to get into a building, you don't do that without figuring out, if you work in an elevator shop, to figure out how to build an elevator to get you from one building to the other. And I'm just giving those examples to say that we've always done that. And also, because we've done that, I think a lot of people in America have taken that for granted. White people in America and people who become immigrants in America, they don't realize that everything that they set foot on and build here has been built on the backs of Black blood.
And that is very important. The people, his assertion is that people have taken it for granted. I don't necessarily think that people have taken it for granted. And I'm not going to talk about any other immigrant class. I'm going to talk about the African immigrants who are looking at other Black people, the Black native population, the Black Americans, and both of them are not able to understand your legacy, your history, your pain, your struggle, and understand that I see you, I see your struggle, and I can help partner with you so that together we can solve some of those problems, remove ourselves collectively. You bring your resources. You've lived in a developed country for the vast majority of your life. In fact, all of your life, you've lived in a developed country. There are things that you have that are strength to you, that if I leverage that with the resources that I have left back home, because that's the goal of America. Everybody's coming to America to work, to earn, it may be home generationally for somebody. But when you come, that's when your clock starts. Some other person might have been here for 100 years. When you come, that's when your 100 years is starting. And you're going and you're creating your own legacies. first generation, second generation, third generations. There are African Americans that are in America that came here in the 1950s, 1960s, and they're pushing the second and third generations. This is home. America is home. They don't have the history or legacy of blood slaves or descendants of slaves, but they have every right and claim to America. So these people need to come together on the same table and have a conversation. Your pain point cannot be an isolation. Your history should be taught to Africans so that they learn and know your history, embrace it, and be part of you. The African history should be taught to you so you understand the African history and connect with the African, so we have a true organic African American. An African whose origins can be traced immediately to Africa and who has engulfed and embraced the Black American experience and is American at heart. So that is an African American, and a descendant of slave that traces their historic past to the continent of Africa and their love for their country, America. That bond is what we are missing. And there are 1.4 billion people in Africa waiting for an opportunity for 49 million people in America to get it right. If 49 million people in America can get it right and turn to the market that is 1.4 billion people, are you telling me that if you can make a product as a Black American in America, in Detroit, in Chicago, in Memphis, in Baltimore, in San Francisco, in Dallas, in Houston, if you can make a product and turn around and drop that product in the markets of Kinshasa, Brazzaville, Lagos, Abuja, Yaoundé, and sell to hundreds and hundreds of millions of people, you are going to turn that down because your history is unique to you? Have you understood anything about the Chinese? The Chinese they're not worried about their culture. They make their products and sell them to America. Make their products and sell them to Latin and Central America, North America, sell them to Europe, sell them. They make their products for the market. The African American true brothers like Tim Black and this gentleman right here are making their products only for Black Americans. A market by Black Americans for Black Americans is not a sustainable market. It's a small market. You have to still bring people there. Even the Chinatowns of the world, people still go to Chinatown that are not Chinese to buy in Chinatown. So this division, this failed boycott should be a learning experience, a learning path that Black Americans and African Americans, descendants from Africa, must understand that the potential is enormous. I have used a simple example. If you are a good cook of soul food, if you have narrowed down the recipes of soul food and you're ready to commercialize soul food, do you want to put soul food out, a soul food restaurant, so it's like a chain restaurant that every American, white, Hispanics, Latinos can come and say, we're going to a Black restaurant to eat soul food and have an experience? And if that is a successful plan, then we take it to Africa. In Lagos, in Nairobi, you're opening soul food restaurant that is basically African food that has been enhanced over time by relocating to North America, and through slavery, that food has been modified and is coming back to the continent. Isn't that a marketable story? And now you are selling food across Africa that is not, it's Western African food. Why is this a disadvantage? Why is this not a partnership that we can create? Why is isolation something that it's a strength? You didn't. Braids came from Africa. You developed it. You looked at it and reworked on it. And that's innovation. And you can take it back to Africa and teach them new things, how to not pick edges. I heard a lot of complaints. Oh, you pick my edges here and there. You can partner, you could trade, you could learn with each other. Teach Africans how to not pick up those edges, right? How to not pick the hair so tight. You could form a partnership. The Africans can teach you how to do Senegalese braids. I don't know how you call them, box braids. I don't know what that is. I don't know. And you could teach them something, a partnership. I learn from you, you learn from me. The lady in Maryland that's at the center of this boycott because she has opened $1 million factory, a braiding factory salon. You should have Black Americans rushing to her to invest. How can we expand the structure? How can we make sure that everybody is benefiting from this idea that you've had? How can we colonize that system where we are the suppliers, we're supplying the hair, we're supplying the products, and inadvertently putting somebody that is not of that ecosystem out of business? That's how it works. When Walmart rolls into a neighborhood, they put out the moms and pop stores out of business. People are going to complain, people are going to cry, but Walmart is in town. The small businesses that were providing those same services go out of business. That's just how it is. It comes with when a big player, but how are you a big player? Because you come together, you bring your resources together. Can I get 10 Black Americans that can put $100,000 in a bucket and we have $1 million and we go to Africa today and take over tourism with just $1 million? Can I have 10 African Americans, Black Americans that can come together, put $250,000, and we go to Africa and start repackaging, rebranding, and reproducing from farm, and we package and we sell those products out to the world? Right now, China is buying avocado from Kenya. Can we get a set of farmers from Mississippi, Arkansas, anywhere that we have Black farmers that can go to Kenya today and work with the Kenyans and revolutionize that avocado industry, where you are owning acres and acres of land in Kenya to make and produce avocado and sell to the Chinese? The Chinese are talking about corn shortage, right? America and China, loggerheads, the Chinese have turned to the Brazilians to be able to buy corn from the Brazilians. Africa has land, abundance of land, but they don't have the technology and resources. Can we have 10 Black Americans that can put $1 million in a bucket and we go to Africa and buy land, go to Tanzania, go to Nigeria, buy fertile land and produce corn that the Chinese and the Americans and the Brazilians can buy? The profits from such businesses, you would infuse them back into the Black neighborhoods, into the, like Dr. Claudette said in another place, there are no Black communities in America. There are only Black neighborhoods. And it's only the hood that's left because the neighbor don't run out. So this hate, this division, it's not going to build your community. It's going to keep you stagnated. Yes, you're going to buy from each other, but it's just going to keep you stagnant. You need to get out of your bubble. You need to get out of your comfort zone and network with people. Africa is virgin territory. There are white people in Kenya and Ethiopia that are buying coffee at knockoff prices and not even brewing the coffee in Kenya or roasting the coffee in Kenya. They're shipping that coffee to America, Chicago, California, all over the country, and roasting that coffee in here in America, and then it becomes a made in America coffee. And you go to Walmart, you see that coffee, and the address is gonna be somewhere in Chicago, the address is gonna be somewhere in Memphis, and they're gonna write a little narrative about Africa, and the farmers don't get no money and no respect. Where are the Black Americans in the coffee space in Africa? Where are they? If white Americans are making millions in Africa, a continent that if you go there, you will be embraced and welcome, where are they? But that does not happen. That does not happen overnight. That happens with coordination, partnership, and a fusion of cultures. Black America must have a Black American Economic Forum, a Black America Economic Forum, BEF. Every dignitary, every business person in Africa, every president from Africa that comes here and is welcome at the White House, when they are done, either on or before they depart, when they come before they meet the president and before they depart from America, they must have a session at the Black Economic Forum with power players that are Black Americans to leverage resources between both communities. We must have historic integration. We must have a Black Day where we are having a taste of Africa, taste of Black culture, Black American culture, right? We cannot fight each other when we have so much to gain from each other. Yes, your culture should be a strength and asset. It could be in a museum where people can go there and learn about your culture. I want to learn about your pain. I want to learn about your history. I want to be able to fight your fights. I have been to struggles for Trayvon Martin. I've been to all kinds of struggles in this America because I understand the pain. I have not lived the pain, but I understand the pain. But do you understand my pain? Do you understand my struggle? Or do you see me as just the African that is intruding in your society and using up resources that you fought for? Instead of saying, my brother from Africa, how can I sit on the table with you? I have the money. We can make the products here. We can make the products in Africa, and we lobby. You have a Black lobby that's going to lobby so that products that are made in Africa can be sold in America. Right now, there are heavy restrictions for products made in Africa to be sold in America. But if you had a business lobby group that can lobby the US government to push that your products that you manufacture in Africa can be sold in America, can be sold in China, can be sold in Africa. I have always said the first person that will figure African logistics, if you're a Black person in logistics, the first person that can figure African logistics will be the Jeff Bezos of Africa. It does not have to be an African from Ethiopia, from Sudan, from Cameroon, from wherever, from South Africa. It could be you, a son of Team Black. It could be you, the daughter of Jasmine Crocker, if she had one. It could be sons and daughters that this country is their legacy. You can go back because you've understood the routes of UPS and FedEx and all of this logistics system that you've developed and enhanced. You can go back and partner and create companies. You have mining. There's no Black American company in Africa right now that is in the mining sector. Gold, copper, bauxite, diamond, what have you? Why? You have one person is not going to be able to do it. It's a collective. So if you have 20 brothers, 20 sisters that can put together $100,000. That's north of $2 million. And you start a mining company because 5 of you are engineers, another 5 are business folks. You can go to the Congo today and have a session because the BEF, Black Economic Forum, has a rapport with higher up offices. They can pick up the phone and call the president of the Congo and say, we're sending a delegation, a company that's going to come out there, and they're going to need licensing to be able to drill. And now you have a Black company that owns a jewelry boutique, a diamond, something that you could sell to everybody because you're redesigning. Are there any Black Americans that are going to Ghana to open chocolate factories? Ghana is the #1 producer of cocoa. Cocoa powder is what is used to make chocolate. The Swiss, the whites, the Europeans are taking all of this powder out and making your Godiva chocolate and selling it to you. Where is the Black American presence in Ghana that's turning that into chocolate? Isn't that a partnership that we can leverage between one another? And you help build communities of your own, of our own, collectively. Trade through business, not isolation, not division, not boycotts, business. Your chocolate that you've imagined, you can now go to Target and say, I want this chocolate to run in Target. Because you have the lobby group, you have the Black Economic Forum, that's also helping African countries with political stress, how to be able to transition and see the benefits, security, banking. Africa is a virgin territory that needs opportunities. The opportunities in Africa are endless. And 49 million people that have the resources, access to potential, are fighting instead of coming together and looking at Africa like we're going to come together and go fix the problems in that continent. But you want to gatekeep. You want to hold on. Onto what? For what reason? So people like, we're going to listen to this a little bit.
Sweat, tears, and manual and intellectual labor. And I think, like I said, that translates to people from Europe. It translates to people from Africa. It translates to people from the Caribbean. A lot of people don't really know this history because this history is so deep. And because our footprint is so embedded in this country that people don't see it, they think that everything is over here just on their own merit, without realizing you're standing on the backs of Black Americans. That's, I think, what's happening now. We knew this stuff back in the day, and I think you're seeing everything come back around full circle to people realizing that, yo, we are Black Americans. We built everything. We deserve a piece of this country. We deserve to be acknowledged for what we built in this country, whether that's through financial compensation, whether that's through political compensation, whether that's by just general respect. And I feel like because people have taken that for granted for so long, the fact that they're dealing with this now scares the hell out of them, and they don't know how to deal with it. So they give you these labels like you're being xenophobic or you're being hateful, when it's not the truth. When it's like, just acknowledging your heritage and acknowledging your history is not xenophobic or hateful, and demanding respect for people from people who come and put their feet up in the house that you built is not disrespect. That's just acknowledging the truth.
You might feel like that's snap your fingers moment, drop the mic, but I'm sorry, it's xenophobia is hate of your own, somebody that looks like you. If you're asked to boycott somebody that looks like you, for what reason? Nobody's taking anything that's yours. You don't own the rights to braiding. You don't own braiding. You don't, it's not uniquely a Black American legacy. Nobody's stealing that. It came from Africa. It's not, I don't get this, right? Somebody comes into your house and put your foot up. People are working hard. Nothing is given. okay, granted, some people take advantage of the system. Everybody takes advantage of the system. But the vast majority of people are working hard. What we need to do is stop this divisive rhetoric of us versus them. Us as our history, we built it. We need to, yes, it's your history. You built it. Nobody, and you are deserving of some kind of reparations, like the Jews are getting reparations for something from Americans that Americans did not even perpetrate their hatred on them. So yes, I agree with you that you're deserving, that there should be some kind of compensation to you and the folks that went on to set up Liberia. I agree. It makes sense that if you imprison people, you subjugated them to pain and suffering, you should be able to compensate them, not just open the door and say, now you are free, which is what the government did. But the government is taking care of other people in a far distant land that they did not even subjugate them to pain and suffering. That should be a comparison between why you deserve reparation, not a war between who is disrespecting you when you yourself are disrespecting other people. Respect is earned, my brothers. It's not given. You don't ask for somebody to respect you. You earn their respect. You don't demand that I should be respected because this is my home. You earn my respect. You don't demand it. You don't force me. You don't boycott me. Then I'm going to respect you. This boycott is going to make you happy and make me unhappy. There's there's division in that family. No matter how you try to make yourself sleep at night, you have created more division than you've created unity. I want to support Black American businesses, and I want Black American businesses to support African, Caribbean businesses. I want to understand your history, your legacy, and I want you to be able to understand my history, my legacy. I want to be able to sit and drink an American beer, and I want you to be able to sit and drink an African beer. And let's share stories together. Our kids can get married together. And we can grow the family through legacy and shared understanding of each pressure point and pain point. That is what I want. But this conversation is still telling yourself that this is your battle and only you can fight your battle. Go look at the history of the wars. You had to bring somebody in to join you to fight your struggle. Most wars were fought by coalitions of people that came together that were not necessarily friends. America did not get into the First World War, but America could not miss the Second World War. The war was not fought in America. America had no stake in that war, but America needed to fight so that Europe was not lost. But you only want to fight your fight by yourself instead of saying, let's bring our Black brothers from Haiti. Let's bring our Black brothers from Cuba. Let's bring our Black brothers from the Caribbeans. Let's bring our Black brothers from Central America that speak Spanish, but they're Black. Let's bring our Black brothers from the continent that has 1.4 billion people so that with this number, we can fight the Black struggle in America. We can change the Black pain point in America. We could change the Black narrative in America. If there's something that you can learn from the Africans, you would learn from the Africans. If there's something that the Africans can learn from the Black Americans, the Black Africans should learn from the Black Americans. That would create a union of force, not a weakness. That would be a strength and a threat to anybody that never wanted that union to happen. So before we round up, we're going again to listen to the doctor that has been preaching this gospel, and people like my man Tim Black should listen to the doctor, Claude Anderson. You know, I bring you only the best.
first you build these communities.
Mhm.
Right now, we do not have not one single black community in America, not one. It's impossible for you to play as a community. Means you got a team. People got mutual understandings, interests, and direction and plans. You have not one black community in America. All you got are black neighborhoods. A neighborhood is where you eat and sleep. A hotel is a neighborhood. A neighborhood is like having a bucket with hole in it. You pour in water and it runs out. It has no effect. And in some of these neighborhoods, it's gotten so bad now, they're not even neighborhoods anymore. The crime has gotten so high, they ran the neighbor out. All you got left is a hood.
That's right.
That's why they call it the hood. Nothing left in there. They don't have any communities. They have a community, you must have three elements to make a community, qualify as a community. You must have a wholly independent economic structure that can produce jobs, services, goods, products, and resources for your own people. Two,
That's the first thing, a wholly economic structure. And he's absolutely right. Across this great country, there's not a single black community. The black neighborhoods. And you might think this is only pertinent to America, but across Africa, they don't have communities too. They don't have economic structures across most of sub-Saharan Africa. And that's the opportunity that I'm saying, that the pains of Black Americans in America are almost identical to the pains of Africans in Africa. They're almost identical. They just were not kept in slavery's condition, but they were colonized. It's not equal to slavery, it's just as bad.
second thing you must have in there, you must have a code of conduct saying this is how we're going to behave. Here's how we're going to love and support each other. Here's how I'm going to get along. Here's why when I go to the Breakfast Club, I'm going to love and respect those blacks on there, appreciate them, care about them, protect them. And lastly, you must have politicians elected.
A code of conduct. I'll see another black brother. If they from anywhere, I'm going to tell them, welcome to America. This is how we operate here. We have a fight. We're going to need you to come fight with us so that together we can achieve greatness. And once we achieve that greatness, we can then turn to the continent of Africa and be able to bless that continent with the resources that we have gotten from this continent. We're not going to see division. We're not going to see hatred. We're not going to see isolation. We're going to see oneness, togetherness. That's the second, a code of conduct. The ability to respect one another, the ability to love another black person, because until I speak, you are not going to know who or what I am. You are just going to see another black man. And as soon as I open my mouth and you hear that accent come out, as you hear the accent right now, the division, the hatred, the separation comes in. Foreign, local. You put barriers, you build walls, and right there, I also, as soon as I identify that walls have gone up, I'm not longer like you. Now you see me as an inferior person. I also build walls and defend myself. You build walls to not bring me into your community. I build walls to know I'm going to be attacked at any moment and I need to be able to defend myself. That's how we communicate, because there's no way you could see me anywhere ever and just say, oh, that's an African. The only way you see either the way I dress or until I open my mouth and talk. You cannot tell who's an African by just looking. I mean, some people you can tell. When you look at Team Black, there's no way you could say he's not an African. He looks like the most African man from sub-Saharan Africa. But how do you know that he's not African? When he talks, right? When he talks. Let's keep listening to Dr. Claudette. Dr. Claude Anderson.
Office who will represent you first and foremost. You don't put black folk in public office that will look out for everybody else before they look out for you. If you don't have those three things, you don't have a community. Or you got neighborhoods. And that's what we got in this country. We know neighborhoods. And once you get that neighborhood, then you go to Anderson's 5-story building. And this is how you get your wealth and power, to go back to my friends.
Black Americans, I want you all to listen. Africans, y'all need to come closer. The Black Americans can move a little bit to the back, but I want y'all to listen. But Africans, I want y'all to listen about the 5 steps that he's going to talk about here, because Africa needs this even more than the Black Americans, because Africa is so dysfunctional. The 3 steps were key, but the next 5 steps are going to be what transforms Africa, and we can form a partnership with our Black American brothers. Because Africans are still going to vote in elections out of emotions. This person is from my village. This person is a Black person. This person is a Black woman. This person is a short Black midget. This person is a Black LGBT. We are still voting for emotional issues as opposed to what are we benefiting? What are we getting in return? And we've not matured enough politically to understand that elections are about interest. Enough. Interest. What are you giving me for my vote? That's the interest. End of. I don't care how you look, how you sound. What are you giving me for my vote? These are the list of the things I want. Can you meet all, at least half? Anything below that, I can't vote for you. Not who looks like me, sounds like me, talks like me, acts like me, has sex like me, dresses like me, identifies like me. Those are not interests. Those emotional things that little clusters of people are going to push. And even they have an interest. The group of Black people vote for no interest. In America, in Africa, in the Caribbean, everywhere, they vote for no interest. They vote tribal and identity. And this point right here is going to point you to the direction of how you pick an elected official. They must have a vested interest in changing the outcomes of your reality.
What's the
Charlemagne.
Charlemagne,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Charlemagne's the next question. Now you got to go back in that community and do what I told you in my books. You must build a 5-story building. Once you get a community, that's your platform. That's your baseline. Is because you got turf and territory. It's like building a house.
Mhm.
Now you got something situated on. You can't build a house with nothing. You got to it has to be structured on something. And once you got that foundation, that community, now the first thing you work on is economics. You started practicing group economics in a vertical order, practicing group economics, making your money bounce in your own community 8 to 12 times before it leaves. Spend your money with your own people first. Buy from your own people first. So you get an economy going in your community. By buying your own people's products, service, and goods, like you do in Chinatown, any other town, Mexican town. And once you get that economy going, then you get the profits coming, the resources, the money coming in from your economy, then you go to the second floor. The second floor is politics. Our people got that backwards. They want to get into politics before they get an economy. Backwards as hell. You won't make it.
Mhm.
And the politics is the second floor. I learned that before I ran campaigns when I was in office with 2 presidents, okay?
So you hear that? The politics is the second lever, the second stage. And he talked about foundations as the community as the foundation, right? The community is your foundation. He did not mince his words with the community. You need a solid community. But a community is not an isolation. A community is not that you're going to cut off this group of people. The community grows with numbers. Numbers is your best friend. It's not an enemy, right? Numbers are your best friend. You need to have the numbers to be able to push some of the agendas that he's talking about. And Dr. Claude Anderson has been talking about this for more than 20 years. And Black African Americans have not been exposed to this information. Black Americans have been, but they've never put it in practice. This is the inappropriate behavior that Dr. Claude Anderson has been talking about. His books are not New York bestsellers with 49 million people in America. Those books are not bestsellers. His teachings are not being taught in Black schools. What is it that you're telling me? But you want to boycott Black businesses when you've not read Dr. Claude Anderson's book? You want to boycott another Black person when you've not put Powernomics into practice, when you've not talked about the community, building a community, when you've not talked about the five steps of Black power. black structure, black economics. Understand that resources were not given to you. And right now, there's no telling if those resources can be given to you to be able to compete with the others. Indians, Southeast Asians, Indians, the Indians from Southeast Asia own 60% of hospitality businesses in America. 60% of hospitalities, all your Motel 6, all of those cheap basic hotels are owned by Indians. Indians are making inroads into Dunkin' Donuts, Subways, franchise businesses, because the system did not redline them. The system did not prevent them from getting credit. But before that, they built an ecosystem themselves. They figured that when they come to America, 4, 5 generations of people are going to stay in one house, raise capital. They're not going to wait for the system to kiss up on them. Same things with the Latinos. The Latinos had the same kind of system. Stay together, 4 or 5, an entire family, stay in one house, everybody's working, paying one mortgage, and saving. They might put in a bucket, and when the money is right, they give it to one brother, one sister, and say, go start a business. You already have your startup capital. You don't even need the bank. You already have the $100,000 needed to start that business, to buy the first Subway. $150,000, $250,000 to buy the first Dunkin' Donuts, because they've been saving for 4 or 5 years. And you start chain reaction, you put it in the bucket, and you buy another one, and it's the other brother's own. But see, Black Americans and Africans don't practice that kind of economics, group economics, which is what Dr. Claude is talking about. Black Americans and African Americans don't practice that kind of economics. As soon as your child turns 16, you kick him out of the house. So now he needs to go out there, get a job, starts working, and he's already on his own. Instead of saying that, finish school, come back home, work. I'm still going to pay my own bill. I have a book coming up on that. Look out for the Village Boys book on how to have that group economics in the black family. Have your kids come back home after college. Stay at home. Kids who are listening and who have some common sense, go back home. Let your parents, they're still going to pay their mortgages and bills. Stay at home. Save your money. When you're leaving home in 4 or 5 years, you graduate at what, 21, 22? When you're leaving home at 26, 27, maybe you have $250,000, $300,000. That's enough capital to start one franchise, buy a business, start something, start an idea, create an idea, start it. Buy a laundromat, something, a business. After a year, because it's a franchise, you're structured, chances of success are really high. It's not a new business that you're starting. The numbers are there. Now you can go to the bank, present your data to the bank, and the bank can then give you a loan, because you need to show the bank numbers. The bank, let nobody fool you. The bank is not going to give you numbers just because you have a brilliant ideas. Loan because you have a brilliant idea. It's hard, rare. But see, Black Africans and Black Americans don't practice group economics. The Africans come to America and they immediately scatter all over the place. The sisters living in North Carolina, the brothers living in Arizona, the other brothers living in Utah, they barely can even see each other. See, Indians don't do that. The Southeast Asians don't do that. We're not going to bring, the Hispanics don't do that either. Go to most houses. It's a 3-bedroom house for Hispanics is an entire apartment with about 20 people renting in that 1 3-bedroom house. And they saving, starting up small businesses. Black Americans and Black African Americans need to learn from these other groups that are coming on how to build group economies.
It won't work. You get politics at the second floor. And don't worry about voting. Voting is immaterial. Voting is a game. It's a form of entertainment. So when you get to the second floor, you take the money that you get from the first floor and you buy the second floor. You buy every politician. You buy every politician with the money you made on the first floor.
So should we vote at all?
I'll tell you that in 1 second.
Okay.
If you got enough money, if you haven't got enough money to buy them, then you rent or lease them. Okay, so you can get what you want. Make them do.
I think that buy the politicians are bought. I did a podcast about politicians that are owned by AIPAC. Why do you think a Jewish group is funding your politicians? As a Black person in America, as a Hispanic person, as an Indian American, as a white American, why do you think that your $20 contribution, your $100 contribution that you give to your politician is going to rival $1 million that a Jewish organization gives to a politician? The same politician in the same district that you live in. So that politician is now owned by that Jewish lobby group, by the Jewish group, a country in Israel, by an Israeli lobby. How does that politician work for your interests when they're working to provide free health care for the children of Israel, subsidized education for the children of Israel? Israel has the best startup and ecosystem in the world, bar none, provided and backed and secured by American politicians. So as an American, if you have a startup idea, you probably don't even have the resources at your disposal like if you were in Israel right now. That's what he means by buying a politician, because you have to be able to own that politician so that they can work for you. The billionaires buy politicians. Are you going to compete with Elon Musk's $230 million? Are you going to compete with the billionaires that fund politicians? You think they fund the politicians because they like you, they care about you, they're looking for your interests? No, they're securing their interests, their generation's interests, their priorities, and they're buying the politicians. If you don't understand the power to buy a politician, then you're voting for fun. You're voting for people that identify and look like you, which is what Black people of every stripe, even across in Africa, still do to date.
What you want to do. And then you make those politicians then go to the third floor. The third floor is your political, it is your court system, your police system.
Mm-hmm.
And make those politicians on the second floor control the politicians to quit shooting Black kids on the street.
Mm.
And mistreating and cat and beating Black folk. Mm-hmm. You control the court system so they won't be getting 40 years in jail from having marijuana.
Is that clear? Once you own the politicians are going to be able to move policies in your favor. If you do not own the politicians are not going to move policy in your favor. The Black senator from Maryland, I forgot her name. I could look it up, but it's going to take me it's a short time. I'm not going to do the new Black lady senator. Amazing. I like her. But I also just found out, I did a post about her in one of the episodes about politicians and how greedy they are. She's already taken money from the Jewish lobby, AIPAC. So in Dr. Claude's and assessment of the situation, is with her receiving money from a Jewish lobby, does she still have the bandwidth to move the Black agenda? Can she go up to the courts and petition any agenda that is going to favor Black people in Maryland now that she has taken Jewish, because she has to be able to fight for Jewish causes, Jewish interests. She took money from a Jewish lobby, and she has to fight for the Jewish interest, Israel's interest, Israel's needs before she fights for American children's needs, Black children's needs. And that's why, because Black people did not buy her over. They didn't fund her campaign to the tune where she would not need to be able to take money from the Jewish lobby. And so they might still be killing kids in the streets of America, because the politicians are not owned and controlled by those that live in those neighborhoods that need to protect those children.
And all that kind of stuff. You got it. So your second floor controls your third floor, your courts controls your judges and stuff. Just like I'm talking about with Trump and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Then the fourth floor, what you get in is media. You take your money off the first floor and you buy media. You got about 12,000 radio stations in the United States. Out of that 12,000, Black folks that owns a major portion, at least 15% of them. You got 12,000 cable systems. Blacks own it, basically none of them hardly. You have 5,000 daily newspapers. They don't own a damn daily newspaper. You got 5,000 TV stations. Blacks might own one some places too, the best. You don't own. In other words, Black folk own 35 thousandths of 1% in media.
Mm-hmm.
You don't own media, you can't communicate, you can't organize, you can't motivate. And so that's the structure. If you want to build your wealth and power, that's how you do it.
Okay. So when I came to America, I'll give you a simple example. When I came to America, one of the first things as a young man that I came to America was the only Black network that I knew at the time was BET. And I found it really interesting. I was a young man at the time, and I was like, the only Black network is entertainment. You wake up in the morning, it's entertainment. You in the middle of the day is entertainment. At night is entertainment, comedy, entertainment, music, movies, entertainment. There was no information, no business, no inspiring stories, nothing that can trigger your mind to think outside of entertainment. And so I fell out of love with BET because it was all entertainment. It had nothing to offer me when I came early on in the 2000s. I was looking for something that would have history, would have politics, would have economics, finance, business. And local news, yes, if you look in local news, it has a lot of Black people, but what does local news talk to you about all day? Crime, shot, this person was shot in this block, theft, depressing news. Local news is the most depressing news. I don't watch local news because it's so depressing. I doubt anything uplifting comes from local news. All of local news is just negativity. Somebody got robbed, somebody got shot, the store got buggered, there was this protest, there was that. There's nothing. Of course, there's community work. There's some segments that has some good community work, but you really have to dig deep to find it in local news. So I turned around and looked at the Hispanics. They had Telemundo, Telefutura, all the different Hispanic channels. In the morning, they'll start with news. They'll give you updates about what's happening at home and here. They'll talk about political agendas that work for Hispanics, which was usually pro-immigration. And then they'll have some shows, some game shows, which were hardly ever on BET. I don't think I ever watched any game shows on BET like during the day. Right. Maybe there was, I just can't remember. It's been over 25 years, right? Some game shows, some aspects of American culture that's not general, it's not necessarily just useless entertainment. Right. And then in the evenings, after the news again, they would have had financial segment, business. They will talk about tequila brands and Hispanic businesses. They'll go into the community, invest in interview businesses. How are they doing? It's this business day. What are they doing? What initiative are they doing in the community? You could find that on the Hispanic TVs, but you could never find that on the Black, because it was only BET. I think there was TV One with Lawrence Martin or something. I can't remember. Confused dude on. He used to be on TV One. I used to like him when he was cat, you know. And so you could never get Black economic stories from an entertainment only platform. And I pushed. I just didn't know the people to talk to and say, Black people need a network that talks about Black stories, read the news in a way that Black people are going to understand. Doesn't take away from the CNNs and the Fox Newses and all of this stuff, but you're just going to say it in a way that you're going to focus and target Black folks. And I was like, oh, maybe, you know, I looked again. I saw PAK, P-A-K. It was a network that had Pakistani TV, Indian TVs. Even the Ethiopians had a TV. And when you go to the radio station, it's all entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. Black people are loaded and saturated with entertainment, 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 entertainment. Hardly there's useful information. If I tune on the Black radio station, anywhere where I leave it right now, if I tune on, they're probably playing some music. Hardly am I going to find investing, starting a business, Black economic, Black labor, how we going to partner with Africans. This person started a business in Africa and they've grossed, the business has grown into a multi-billion dollars. Those are positive stories that are supposed to reverberate so that other people are learning and asking, how do I start farming a cattle ranch in Africa with 1,000 cows that can start a milk processing plant for Kenyans and East Africans that love dairy products and stuff. So our problems are shared. Africans have the same problems. Black Americans have the same problems. We just have it from different story points, different reality points. So we cannot fight one another when we have potentials and opportunities to build one another, to be strong with one another. Business people don't isolate. Good business people do not fear to cross the borders, to venture and go across. That's why the colonial settlers were able to say, let's go across from England and go look for a strange world and start life there. Let's use up Black people like slaves, not pay them for 200 years. Business people must take risks. They could have been scared and said, let's preserve the European culture and stay secluded. And we're going to have a segment about the white-only towns in Orania and the one in the Ozarks that are coming up. Seclusion does not make strength. So seclusion never builds a powerful community. Give it time. In Orania, you are going to start seeing some strange diseases that are going to come up because at some point, blood is going to run into one another. That's what white-only towns mean. Unless they keep admitting new people to grow. Because the current people, if they stay small, sooner or later, they're going to be one family. And once they become one family, the blood is going to start circulating. And then we're going to start seeing all kinds of evil diseases that we've never seen before. You cannot afford to seclude yourself, isolate yourself. If anything, you've learned today on the Village Boy podcast is to go get the books of Dr. Claude Anderson. Africans, go get the books of Dr. Claude Anderson. Black Americans, get his books, read Powernomics, read how we can blow off, come out of your comfort zone and partner with the Black people around the world. How many Blacks own an Airbnb in Jamaica for rent? How many Black Americans own partners in resorts in Jamaica, in Dominican Republic, in any place? How many Blacks are on decision boards that are able to say, you know what, we're going to let us, the Black people, go to Haiti and rebuild Haiti? Where's the Black Commission that's going to Haiti to say, y'all need to stop this nonsense war? Let's rebuild Haiti and let Haiti be. Haiti is border country with Dominican Republic. Border, which means they're both island countries. But Dominican Republic is an oasis, an island, a haven, a touristic haven. While Haiti, next door, is a nightmare, deserted island. Nobody wants to go to Haiti. Where is the Black Commission of Black Black Americans who are able to say, let's go to Haiti and put these Black people to work. Let's show them how it's done. And you build the hotels. You bring the Hiltons and the Marriotts and all of these hotels. And you're able to put a coalition government, and Haitians are able to listen to you because Black folks are talking to them, because you're not going to maltreat them. Go look at what the government of America did to Haiti. I did a podcast on that too. I said, when you don't know your history, or when you only limit yourself to your history, issues like Black African boycotts are the things that come out from when you don't want to learn nothing else but yourself. Learn about Haiti. I always call Haiti because those are also foundational Black American slaves, descendants of slaves. Haitians are. But you don't know that because your pain has engulfed you. And at a certain point in time, you have to be willing to heal and come out of your comfort zone and learn about something else, learn about someone else, that both of us collectively, we could go and say, I will build companies here in Haiti. And that's going to put money, and we're going to be able to build Black communities here. We're going to be able to have Black banks, Black businesses, Black companies in Black communities, and build the levers that Dr. Claude Anderson has talked. Be able to buy Black politicians that are going to be having Black lobby groups that then work for Black people in America and out of America. You don't do that through xenophobia. South Africans failed. Black Americans are going to fail. The ADOS movement is going to fail. I can guarantee it. Anybody that's advocating for the divide of Black people instead of the unity and unity of Black people is going to fail. There's a way out. There's a way that we can come together and create an economy for ourselves. But it starts by getting out of the comfort zone, not locking yourself in the house and talking about your culture, your identity, your people, and isolating everyone else but yourself. It's your host, Trez, for the Village Boy Podcast. And we'll finish and hear what Dr. Claude had to say.
Do it. You spend and once you build that economy, spend your money with your own people, make it bounce 8 to 10 times. In this country right now, Hispanics, let's take Hispanics. Hispanic bounce their money on an average of 6 to 7 times in Mexican time, little Havana, little Cuba. White folks typically bounce their money 8 to 12 times. Arabs bounce and Arabs and Asians bounce their money about 13 or 14 times. Jews bounce their money about 18 times. Black money doesn't bounce once. As soon as a Black person gets paid, he runs straight to somebody else's business and give them the money. That means they go bankrupt every night. Every Black neighborhood goes bankrupt every night at 7 o'clock. Stays bankrupt until next morning. They don't own any damn businesses. When a white man or somebody else close their doors, they go bankrupt. Well, we overcome and we're progressing. Wait, where's the progress? Oh, someplace. Well, we got social progress. Now, let me jump back to that a second. I was born in South Carolina. Let me show.
This is why I listen to Dr. Claude Anderson, because he says it. And when he says it, he talks about Black people, and he's not isolating who is, his focus is Black Americans, yes. But he also believes that a union can be formed. I would really appreciate it if guys like Tim Black can advocate for that kind of partnership, for this ADOS movement, to be able to drop this xenophobic war, this Black on Black violence. We saw that August 1st deadline was a complete failure, a fiasco. We saw that it had a little bit of traction with a small group of people, but overall it was a failure. I would ask that we focus on building that Black Economic Forum, a powerful economic forum where heads of states in Africa, power brokers in Africa, the Dangotes, the shakers, movers and shakers in Africa can partnership, form business connections with the movers and shakers in the Black communities on how we can restructure African politics to make sure our politicians work for us. 6 African leaders, were there six of them, I think, came to America, left America without talking to Black business people. I have a problem with that. The Village Boy has a problem with that. The Village has a problem with that. If the president of Mexico comes to America, I can guarantee you, Gloria Steinbaum is going to be talking to the Mexican Economic Business Forum or whatever association. She is going to be talking to Mexicans in America on what they need to do to continue giving back and building Mexico. Now, individually, those presidents might talk to their respective countrymen and women. The president of Nigeria, when he comes here, he goes and talks to the Nigerians. But Black Americans cannot be left out of this opportunity. It makes absolutely no sense. So if you're finding this content valuable, we've grown enormously. We started with 1 subscriber. We're where we're at right now. Continue to like and support us. We're not having this conversation like we know it all. So some people are going to disagree. A lot of people are going to disagree. We're having this conversation because we want to bridge communities. We want to bring people together. We want to open doors that have been shut down historically for years. We want to talk about issues that nobody wants to talk about. We want to talk about why will poor Americans be funding rich Israelis? It's not hatred. That's a valid question. Why will a Black American who barely has a job at maybe $40,000 a year be voting for a candidate whose priority is to ensure that Israel gets $3 billion a year? How many billions are you getting in a year to get out of your $40,000? You have no health insurance, you have nothing to your name, and you're going to vote for a candidate because they look like you, sound like you, talk like you, or promise you things that they're not going to deliver or not going to affect you. This is what the Village Boy platform is all about. We're going to talk about those topics that people don't want to touch. Because why? When Americans have the worst education system compared to the Chinese, Americans are still struggling to figure out what gender they are. When the Chinese kid is able to already assemble a cell phone, a cheap Apple cell phone. The world is changing. The world is blowing up. The world is opening up. One of my first podcasts was the H-1B visas. You can go down and look at it and find out, to understand who I really am and what it is that I believe in, what I'm fighting for. I'm always going to fight for the children of America. I'm always going to fight for what's right for America. But I don't have 100 years generational legacy that somebody's going to come here when I fight for America and tell me that this is not my home. It is my home just as it is your home. There's space for everybody. It's your home. It's my home. And I could have another home somewhere. Billionaires have homes all over the place. But a poor man be damned that he has a home in Lagos and have a home in Atlanta. A poor man be damned that he has a house in Dar es Salaam and has a home in Baltimore. You're always going to be reminded that You're from someplace else. But Jeff Bezos can shut down Venice, millions of millions to do a wedding. He can have a home anywhere in the world, and they're going to say, yes, he's a true, authentic American. Elon Musk, an African American in his own right, born in South Africa, is more American than I, and we are both naturalized Americans. But America will be more receptive of him than receptive of me, because I have a Black African accent, and because he's white, he has a more acceptable accent. So nobody questions his Americanness. And my book on that story, that particular story, is going to be out. You can go out and get a copy for yourself. I'll put out the date when I have a release. And we're building a merch store for African boy, village boy merch. So for those, my few viewers and supporters that want to be able to support us and get some African merch and buy the book, to understand that some of the things that they say is because they don't care that you're a Black American and I'm African American. They don't care. All they see is Black people. Charlie Kirk does not care that he has never differentiated that, oh, I prefer Black Americans to African Americans. He just doesn't care about Black people altogether. He can't fly in a plane that has a Black pilot. He never said if it's a Black American pilot or it's an African American pilot. He just said, if I see a Black pilot, I hope the pilot is qualified. He didn't care. And we're here fighting each other when we have racists out there like Charlie Kirk still looking at both of us and saying, I don't give two shit. I don't care how you guys fight one another. I don't want you here. I don't want to be part of you. And we're saying, oh, we don't want to be part of each other. So it's been an amazing show. I didn't expect it to be this long, but I hope you find value in it. Like, subscribe. Until next time.